There are going to be guys who go, well, I'm not Trump, Dinesh, and I didn't go in the Capitol on January 6th, and I pay my taxes. I'm a good guy, so I don't have anything to worry about. The police state's never coming after me. I'm never going to hear the FBI battering ram or the helicopter over my lawn. And I'm like, don't be so sure, because there are a lot of ordinary people, some of them school board, moms who go to school board meetings because they don't like what their kids are getting in school. And they discover that they're being watched. They end up on these lists. People who went to Washington, D.C. around January 6th, but they didn't go to the Trump rally. They didn't go in the Capitol. And they're on a watch list, and there are federal marshals following them around to this day. So all this kind of craziness is in the movie. And I think the left is a little startled because they can't challenge it. It's all going on. There's not a single fact in the movie that's even open to dispute. And so I think the movie has a very unnerving experience about people who are still, and many Republicans, many conservatives, still think, we're living in a free society. Don't get too excited. We have nothing to really worry about. The pendulum swings over here, but it's going to swing back. Well, no. Sometimes pendulums don't swing back. They swing this way and they stay there. And it takes a horrible set of circumstances, catastrophic war in the case of the Nazis, the implosion of a whole society in the case of the Soviet Union, and only then do you get change.
That's what really astounds me, is that the left, who, I used to be left, I was raised left till I left the left. But when I was in the left, we were for free speech. We were for dialogue and argument and, compromise. I mean, all these things have no part in the left, nor, surprisingly, does it any talk of labor rights.
Right. We're dealing with a completely new left, and we're dealing with a completely different Democratic Party. I mean, the Democratic Party was a one-party state, kind of, from the 1930s, FDR, all the way to Reagan. Because there was a Republican Party, but it was kind of almost like a token opposition. But the Democrats weren't the same Democrats as we have today. They didn't want to take away your free speech rights. They didn't want to shut you down. They didn't want to put you in jail. And we've had police states in our history, but they've tended to be for limited time, wartime, or they have tended to focus on, blacks obviously lived in a police state in the slavery South and in the postbellum era. But the idea of turning the whole country into a police state and criminalizing the entire opposition and trying to lock up the leader of the opposition party, this is unheard of.
It is.
So we have taken a dark turn in our country's politics. And as you say, the goal of this film, people have seen it happening a little over here, digital censorship, criminalization of political differences, political prisoners. We try to bring
criminalization of somebody who dissents against the sanctified narrative, too.
Right. And often the narrative, they act like they're fighting misinformation and disinformation, but they are the number one purveyors of disinformation.
Yeah, that's what's astounding.
Things like, if you take the vaccine, you can't get COVID.
Right.
If you take the vaccine, you can't give someone COVID. This is coming out of the government.
Yeah.
And it's false. But if you challenge it, they ban you.
Yeah.
For misinformation when they are the agents of misinformation.
Well, they're all in bed together, and it seems like they're all pulling their wagons in a circle, and they are horrified at the prospect that their web of power could be broken. Yeah, so doesn't that mean that it kind of is being broken in some ways? Because if they weren't under some kind of feeling of threat, they wouldn't be saying anything.
There's no question that if they thought that they had a overwhelming majority of people on their side, they wouldn't need to do police state tactics. Right. The reason police state tactics and coercive tactics are used is you have to force people. You have to bludgeon them, you have to batter them, you have to pressure them. And I think this is going on at all levels of the society. One of the issues we look at in the film is, clearly every FBI agent can't be a thug. There've got to be some ordinary guys who go in there. They have law enforcement background, military background. But what happens is the police state is very cunning. It is able to recruit good people to do bad things.
Yes.
And it does it by by removing the end goal from sight and focusing on the operational task. I mean, I think this is how the Nazis did it.
That is how they did it.
Yeah, they're not going to say,
Clerk mentality.
go kill these people and get rid of them. They're like, listen, these people are like a menace to society, but we're going to handle it. You don't have to worry about what is their ultimate fate. Your job is to like round them up.
Right.
Right. That's your goal.
That's right.
Your job is to label them and to find them and to identify them, and if necessary, to apprehend them. The process will then take over from there, and you don't worry about it.
Right.
I think that's what happens with the ordinary FBI agent. There's a grandmother. I realize she's 70 years old, and you're not going to feel good about pulling her hair and twisting her arms behind her back. But guess what? She's doing something really bad, and you don't worry about what it is. You just go get her. We'll then put her before the courts. We will deal with it. And then the FBI guy goes, well, I want to be on the team. I want to be one of the guys. I want to get a bonus.
I'm just following orders.
I'm just following orders. Exactly.
Good Germans. They're good Germans.
It's the good Germans. You know, they brought MK Ultra over here in Operation Paperclip after World War II. They brought all that Nazi intelligence over to the United States, and they never gave it up, and it was how to control population with mass mind control. And of course we have the media, which is, self-evident to everyone who watches it. It only tells, I used to think it only told one side, but now I realize it doesn't tell the truth of any side. It has a whole third thing going on.
It's very disturbing because in classic police states, think of like, Goebbels in Germany, or even Stalin, they had a minister of propaganda. They ordered the media, you got to say this, you got to say that. Our media is ostensibly independent. You got all these news organizations, thousands of independent journalists. So it's even more mysterious how you get our media to sing out of the same hymn book, when nobody is directly providing a hymn book and nobody is forcing them to all sing the same music, but they do.
But I think Elon Musk proved that they were in cahoots, and that's the definition of fascism, when corporations get in bed with the government. So the government, the Biden administration and the Obama administration, to get Trump, the Obama administration, in order to get Trump, was calling Zuckerberg and all these people and saying, you will say he's a Russian agent, and you will say Russia, 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 and you will say that, and you'll say it every day for 4 years, everywhere.
Absolutely. No, there was the intelligence officials who put out the false narrative that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. The media went with it. It shows that our police state is a big octopus that stretches across the public sector and the private sector. It includes academia and the media, so many elements of our society. That's part of what makes it so disturbing, because part of it can be fixed with, Trump goes back in the White House, he can redo the FBI, he can redo the Department of Homeland Security. But you know what? YouTube is still going to ban people, and Facebook is still going to ban people, and so you need the courts to do their part. So interestingly,
they don't do that either.
Yeah. Now, the court is taking a big case. There's a big free speech case.
I know. I was so happy to see that.
Coming up next spring. And, I wish they had kept an injunction saying to these digital platforms, in the meantime, you cannot collude with the government. But they said, you can do what you want right now. We're going to take the case in the spring. So let's see what they decide. They could administer a really good drop kick to censorship. That would be very good.
It would be very good for America to not have censorship of...
Yeah, it wouldn't end private censorship. So YouTube could still have its own guidelines, but they couldn't collude with the government. I think that's the court can withdraw the grubby hand of the government from this censorship operation, and that alone would be progress.
Yeah, that would be progress. And it would be progress if they were in collusion with any government anywhere on earth.
Well, this is important because the police state, you saw this in the film, of course, there's a global aspect to it.
Yes.
The UN is involved, the World Economic Forum, and it is eerie to see how you'll hear some rhetoric in America and you think it's like homegrown, like American nonsense.
But it isn't.
No, there it is in Canada, there it is in New Zealand of all places, Australia, Europe. So this concept of a police planet becomes very disquieting. And think about it, historically, Mao was able to do it in China and the Soviets within the vast Russian Empire. But none of them could create a worldwide tyranny And ironically, technology, which is in so many ways an instrument of liberation, now enables tyrannical control to a degree
Absolutely.
that these earlier powers could never have dreamed of.
I know. I thought that, if Hitler had computers, it's like that because it's that same intelligence. It's that same mind set that, wants world domination for a few at the expense of the many. And the useless eaters, we're kicking them off this planet. It's just pure Nazism.
Yeah.
And Stalinism combined, so they can't be blaming each other. There was a Stalin-Hitler pact that everybody forgets about, and that's what it seems to me is going on. The right wing and the left wing are exactly the same to me, and I want to ask you, how far along down this path towards total lockdown and police state world do you think we are, and can we turn around?
I would say that on a scale of 1 to 10, we are somewhere at between 6 and a 7, which is to say we're not there yet. We're not even close to being a full-fledged police state. Frankly, for a full-fledged police state, I can't make a movie called Police State.
Right.
So the point of making the movie is to sound a warning, an alarm, before we get to that point where it's too late and the jaws of the police state have slammed shut. But when you look at police states around the world, let's take North Korea right now, China, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, and the old Soviet Union. And you ask, well, what do those places all have in common? What are the 5 or 6 things that they all have? Well, they have mass surveillance of citizens. They have widespread censorship. They have ideological indoctrination and propaganda in the schools and in the media. They are one-party states where they try to shut down opposition and lock up the leaders of the opposition party. They undermine religious liberty. They have political prisoners. So just take that list and go down the checklist and see which of those things do you now see in America? All of them. To some degree or another, they're all here.
Yeah.
And that is enough to sound the alarm.
Yeah.
And say that this is not an idle fear.
So you see